Okay, so we're back, and let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty details here of what the connections are for the 10-pin Molex. When you take off your connector and you look at the I don't think Suzuki ever defined what the pinouts were, but you're going to see one wire typically that is a red large primary. There's two large primaries here. This one is the one that goes to the battery, and we're not going to worry about that one. The connection this is the connection between the ignition switch and RR, going through the fuse box with a 15, the main fuse, to the back to the battery. So because we've already put the battery connection in, coming from the side of the SolidStatePowerBox, we won't need this wire, and we can leave it off. The other red wire is now the wire, the unswitched power that was fused and goes back to the ignition switch and the connection to the RR. Now, we have already dealt with this wire also, in that it goes back to the RR, but we still need to get back to the ignition switch. And so that is what I indicated here as R0. It's pin 1. It's the red wire that there's a red pigtail. And we get back to our connector. It's this lower right hand corner, which we said before. Bottom row on the right is R0. We need to strip back R0 and strip back this other red primary and twist and solder and heat shrink those together, and that will take care of R0. The next wire is number 5, which is on the other extreme side, and what we show here is that the pigtail is going to be orange. It's on pin 5, the opposite side, and we need to hook this to the orange wire. Well, the orange wire, there's also another thick primary wire, and this is the wire that comes back from the ignition switch, that literally is really the switch that powers these additional 3 circuits. Again, if you've looked at your schematic for your bike and you have a fuse box, orange white, orange red, and orange green are the ignition, headlamp, and signal circuits for your standard stock GS Suzuki, and I think that applies to any Suzuki that's got a fuse box that has those circuits. So the orange is the return from the ignition switch, and so we're using the exact same wire, but because our primary power is coming through these other wires from the side, this is now really going to be just a very low current coming in. It's just enough to switch our SolidStatePowerBox. So no worries. Having too big a wire, there's really no reason to go in and replace this wire to put something smaller. It's fine. But that is where this is the wire that's coming from your ignition switch, and you'll want to take this now and cut the wire. Come back and find your number 5, which is this one on the other side. Cut and strip it. Intertwine the wires and use the heat shrink to protect that as well. The next 3 wires are a white, yellow, and a green. Now the white, yellow, and green are, you'll notice that they're pretty much different than the orange and the red. So that's really to indicate 3 signal lines that are coming in. The other orange is also used as a signal line, but because the wire that we need out of the harness is orange, I left it the same so it matches. So on the functional diagram, just coming down the list here, white is the pin number 3, which would be the middle of the bottom row, and that is intended to be hooked up to your kill switch. Now, I show this being connected to my green white. Now, that may seem strange at first to some of you, but let me just explain real quick. Again, if those of you that have been around the GS charging, GS resources, and dealt with any of the GS charging issues, you'll know that one of the primary recommendations is to remove the headlamp switch loop which disables one of the stator leg loops. So once you do that and you remove these two from your stator leg, you literally have two free wires in your harness that are running all the way from the front in your headlamp bucket to all the way in the back, very close to where your connections are to your fuse box. So what I have done on my bike previously for the relay modification is I wired my kill switch into this green and white wire, and so because of that it's available on my bike, and I have just carried that over here. So the green white wire, you will, as long as you're dealing here on the 10-pin Molex, you'll want to connect this wire to your white wire on the Molex. Okay. In this case, this wire is pretty beat up. It's been overheated, and so you might be a little concerned about that. But again, this is carrying very little current, so unless the insulation is literally melted off, you can probably just use it the way it is. You know, you're going to cut the connector off and make it, again, a good connection to your white wire. The next switch is the white green. And in this case, that's where I have this pigtail here with the little bullet connector. I showed that before as having this bullet connector that I had soldered directly onto my solenoid. So effectively, this is the wire right here. So that provides your start input. The start input is a white-green. You hook it up to your yellow wire. Okay, so the third, or actually it's the fourth switch input, is the green, and the green is an accessory input. So you may not have an accessory input that you know of now, but when you're wiring up your horn, or you're wiring up your driving lights or something, and you find you need to run another signal wire from the front of the bike to the back, you might find that this white-red, the other wire that is available, is the one you'd want to drive that switch with. So for the moment, I'm just going to say, use that white-red wire and connect it to your green. So that green is the number 2 wire on the bottom row next to the first red. So that really deals with all of the control inputs. So now let's really look at the power that's coming out of this. The first red wire up here in the corner, or actually, it's R1. And again, I changed the numbering. If you saw the original version of this, R0 really relates to the 0 channel. And now, but if you're going to load, you actually have a unswitched input or a battery charger input. You would, in this case, that would correspond to the wire that we have coming in the bottom of our fuse box, or maybe you have multiple ones. Again, there's going to be a limit to how much you can put on, but those wires would be hooked up to the pin 6, which happens to be the red wire that's right on top of the other red wire. In fact, both these wires are really connected. So you could interchange them, but just to maintain consistency, and you can see that on this functional diagram that R0 and R1 are in fact the same connection. But I'd go ahead and put line 6 and have that for other reasons that may not be obvious internal, but go ahead and hook up your unswitched inputs and charger inputs to this line. The next wire is going to be one of 3 oranges. So this orange is on pin 7. Pin 7 would be this second on the top row, which is right next to the red we just talked about, and that is going to be the wire that you want to hook to your orange-green, which is your signal loads. So we find our orange-green, and we will connect it to that. Again, same thing. Strip both back, intertwine the wires, solder it, and then slip your shrink tubing back over it. The next wire is the orange-white. Orange-white is your ignition circuit. So the pin 10 is the extreme left-hand side, again on top, and we're going to connect this now to our orange-white. The next wire is pin 9, which is right next to it, is to be connected to the orange-red. Okay, and we can see the color if you can pick that up on the video. And so your orange-red is again right here. So the pin number 9, orange on pigtail, is hooked to the orange-red on your connector. The last signal here is a R2 pin 8, which is the switched accessory. So again, depending on if you were driving a horn or driving lights or whatever, and so there's not going to be a wire here as part of the original harness, but that pin 8 is going to be this red here on top. Okay, because remember this was pin 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this is where you'd hook your driving lights or hook your horn up to. So I think we basically covered all of these connections. What we'll do is in a further video talk about how you would have changed your kill switch to make sure that the green and white is being powered from the kill switch, or how to make changes to your, say, your horn button to make sure that the white red is coming back as a switched accessory input. Okay? Alright, well, thanks a lot everybody, and we'll see you the next time.